welcome, my name is Ajaxpost and I'd like to introduce you to a brand new Let's Play of mine for This War of Mine. Again, it's not a brand new game, it's been out I think now for just over 2 years. In fact, the recent Steam Winter Sale, which is where I picked this game up from, it came more or less at the same time as their 2-year anniversary, and they added some extra features. An anniversary edition of the game was released, which is what I'm playing here, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. It's one of those games which is very simple to play, but does make you think. It really does, and there are things you do which you can't recover from, which is great. And as we'll see, it is quite a challenge. Now, this is the base game. There is a DLC called The Little Ones, which I haven't purchased. From what I can make out, although it adds children to the game, and a few other sort of elements to it, I'm not sure it really enhances too much on the basic gameplay concepts of it. But well, you'll see what I've got here. This is the first screen. As you can see, it has a modding centre, so it has integration with the Steam Workshop, so you can add extra mods to it. They're not sort of complete rewrites of the game mods in that sort of sense, but they can add quite a lot of different characteristics to it. One I played with a little while ago was a quality of life mod, which makes a lot of changes to the amount of objects and stuff that your characters can scavenge, and all sorts of other changes to the mechanics of the game, which are great. But for me, I think it made it a little bit easier in a sense to achieve things which in the normal gameplay are actually quite difficult to manage over time. So I've disabled that for this. I want it to be a fairly tough experience for me, just so that you can see the challenge that this game offers. There are also music mods. You can actually import music into it in a couple of situations. I've disabled that mod again, largely to make sure that I don't get hit by any copyright flags from YouTube. So I am just playing in-game music within this Let's Play. One mod I have enabled is Tools Don't Break. It is kind of me being lazy. You shouldn't need it really, but it does make some of your tools unbreakable, which they do normally sort of wear and tear, but that just gets costly. And I thought I could do without that. It doesn't really break the mechanics of the game. It doesn't make it that much easier, I hope, but we'll see anyway as we go through. Other things other mods you can get, I'll talk about in a moment when we look at the setup of my actual game here. So you can use the new story. I've already got a game in play, which is why it says continue here. You can let the game randomise a selection of characters and situations and maps for you, which gives you quite an unexpected challenge. You're never quite sure what you're going to end up with. But what you can do, and this was an update to the game after it came out, is write your own story, which allows you to select which of the built-in characters you want to use in your game, and also what sort of map of locations you want to play with. So let's just have a quick look through this. These are the various characters you can use in the game. Now, you can't tell from here quite what their characteristics are, but there's a very good manual or guide on Steam which does tell you a great deal about them and what their particular attributes are. Now, I'm going to make my game a little bit easier for me by picking a certain selection of 3 individuals who I know have really, really useful characteristics, which we'll get into once we load the game up. Now, the other thing you can do is you can actually load in your own characters. You can actually put in a photo there's a portraits folder in the game, put an image in there. Obviously you see my sim character here doesn't really fit in with the style, so I'm not going to use him in the game, but you can put him in and you can define his characteristics, his name, gender, what his basic occupation is, and that gives a clue as to what sort of skills he had, or that person has, within the game. And you can also sort of define what sort of physique they have, what sort of character, what the actual character animation is within the game. Again, I'm not going to use that here. I'm just going to keep with my 3 chosen individuals. You can, when you create your civilians, you can actually upload them to the Steam Workshop as well, so you can share them with other people. You can define how long the war is going to last, and the point of the game is to survive the war. You're not actually fighting it. You're actually a survivor within the town, the city that's being besieged, or within which there is this ongoing war. So your objective is to survive until ceasefire. Now, you can take this down to a short period as 20 days. How long can you make it? Ooh, that is far too long, 80. I've generally gone for a 40, which is a nice period. It gives you time to build up your refuge and come into conflict and trade with other characters within the map. So I think that's a nice period, for me anyway. The conflict, again, this kind of is the difficulty level to a degree of the game. I'm just going to go moderate here, so it does again pose some challenge, and there's a risk my characters will die, and it is permadeath kind of thing. Winter, this really does have an impact on the game. It really makes things difficult for you in terms of the places you can scavenge, the temperature within your refuge, and that has an impact on how well your characters feel. So they can get sick, and if they are sick, then obviously you need to keep the house that much warmer. Otherwise they will deteriorate and die very quickly. Winter harshness, again, I'll go for moderate, so it's basically survivable. And winter length, how many days will it last? Moderate, that again I think will be okay. It's not too difficult, but it does present some sort of challenge for my survivors. The city map, this is the map, and what you do here is you select which of these locations you want to appear within your gameplay, and as it says, you need a minimum of 12 just so it has something for you to play with, places to go, and each of them offers different types of looting options. So you're a survivor, so what you've got to do is go out into the city, into these locations, and find resources and supplies to keep you and your friends alive in your refuge building. Now, some of them will be quite difficult, and they offer choices here when you set the map up. Some of them can be occupied by soldiers, which means you are at risk of death by shooting, which is kind of unpleasant for you and your fellow survivors, or other characters within other types of individual within that location. So you can pick these scavengers, bandits, traders. So you can define and customize the game quite a lot here as to how much of a challenge it's going to be for your survivors. And once you've sort of set up a map you like to play, you can keep it and save it. And I've already saved one. I've called it Let's Play, so we'll load that. So I've got 14 locations here, which range from easy places to loot, to find supplies like the Shelled Cottage, and difficult places like the warehouse. No, it's not the warehouse, is it? It's things like the which one is it? There's one here which is quite difficult. The Sniper Junction, or Scavenger Sniper Junction is a difficult one, where you've got to avoid a sniper. Hotel. That's reasonably safe. Which are my difficult ones here? Oh, this one is quite difficult. Small apartment building. But anyway, you will see that as we go through. So I'm going to play. This is the map I'm playing with. So we will come out of there. So we've got 14 locations chosen. I'm going to save this story. I'm going to give it a name. We'll call it my Let's Play story. And again, you can upload that to the Steam Workshop so other people can have a crack at playing your combination of survivors and locations. So, let's get on with it. Start my story. And that was just me losing the progress I'd made in a previous game. The game is quite challenging in that it only offers one save point, and that's automated. You cannot save when you feel like it. When you think you might face danger, you can't say, "Oh, I'll save this," and then just nip back and reload the game to prevent that death situation you had. So here we are. These are my 3 survivors, and this is the building they find themselves in, their refuge. And they're going to have to survive in this. They're going to have to supply it, resource it, find food, supplies, and so on. And these are my 3 surviving characters, Bruno, Marin, and Marco. Now Bruno is quite handy because he's a good cook, which means he doesn't use as much ingredients to produce meals. Marin is good because he's a handyman, which means he can build things quite quickly. Right, now there is no pause on this game, so I'm going to have to keep on moving and hopefully talking and making sense at the same time. So what they're doing now is scavenging all the piles of rubble that they find in the hope that Marin can create objects out of them. So where's Marco? We'll send him over here. Now Bruno here is slightly wounded, which means he's got to go and find, we've got to find some bandages for him to wrap up his wounds, otherwise he will get sicker and sicker and eventually die. So now it can be difficult sometimes to keep track of who's where in here. If we send him down there to get that, that's quite an easy one to get to. Marin's well, so we will send him up here to deal with that, and Marco can look in there. So all I'm doing here at the moment is just finding all the resources that are available within the house. Now one thing that can happen, this is a pause actually, so you can pause the game in some of these screens. So it isn't entirely ongoing all the time, so you can actually stop it. So I was kind of lying a bit earlier. Right, one thing that happens is you will receive visitors to your refuge, some of whom are offering deals, which either might be if you give them help, they will give you something in return, or it might actually be a trader who comes with a load of supplies and you have to bargain with them with what you've got, what they've got, and try and reach a mutual arrangement of exchange. Or there might be bandits coming in the night trying to take stuff off you. Now one kind of little trick, if you will, with the game here is that if you've actually picked up all this stuff, these supplies from your rubble piles within your refuge, bandits can take them. But I think if you leave them in the rubble piles, the bandits don't take them. So if there are some things here which you know you don't need right now, you can leave them in their piles. But that is kind of confusing me sometimes, so I tend not to do that. I tend to leave it, risk it, really, that the rebels won't come and take all my stuff. Now, what we need to find quite quickly, if we can, is some bandages for Bruno. And actually, let's get over here. And if I right-click on a location, they will run there rather than walk. Oh, now that's very handy. We've got a lockpick here. Now, a lockpick will open locked doors, or you could use a crowbar. Now, I don't know, the mod I installed earlier, or enabled earlier, I think it says in the description it doesn't impact on one-use items. And the lockpick, a bit like the saw blade, which we will see later, can only be used once normally. Now, when I've tried this in the modded game I was playing earlier, I could actually keep the lockpick after I used it. Now, I'm not sure if that was the mod I disabled, the quality of life, or it was the the other mod, which I've forgotten the name of, which I've kept in play. But we will see. And we don't really want to use a lockpick here. The advantage of the lockpick is it opens doors silently, which a crowbar fairly obviously doesn't. Right. Right, now that we can use the lockpick here. We're not going to, because just in case it does break and we want to use it somewhere else. What's Bruno doing? You can open that door, can you? Yes, you can. Good man. Oh, and that door's locked as well. Oh, this is going to be annoying. So we're going to send Marco downstairs. Hopefully that door is open. It should be, because there's no symbol on it. Now, these big piles are just rubbish, basically. They're big piles of stuff that's fallen down and you can't make anything of. So you just need to dig them out of the way. Now for that you need a shovel, really. Otherwise you have to dig it all up by hand, which takes some time. Now here's good, we get some food item at least. That one's not terribly helpful, to be honest, but we need some basic. There is a sort of meat and a vegetable food. You do need meat in the game to make a meal, but having veg allows you to make a better meal. So it comes in handy, but without meat is a bit pointless, I'm afraid, but we're going to take it anyway. Okay, so where are our guys? So that was Bruno. Okay, we'll have him digging through that. He's not going to be able to get in there because it's locked, but I want that pile out of the way anyway. What's Marin up to? He's still dealing with that. Okay, now because it kind of works on a sort of real-time clock, as it were, you can't stop it or speed it up. So I may occasionally sort of flash through the game and just sort of cut bits out if things are taking too long to get to an interesting point. But I think we're okay at the moment. So Marin's going to get rid of that. There you are. That is Marin, isn't it? Yeah. I have a habit of getting the people wrong, as you will discover. Right. Okay, now he's actually got a fair amount of stuff now, so what we can do is send Marin down to his workbench. We've just got one very simple workbench here at the moment. And we need to upgrade that to make any real good stuff. Okay, now what we're going to make here, there are two things we need fairly quickly. That's beds, so they can have a good night's sleep, and also a stove to cook food on. Now we need a bed immediately, really, for Bruno, because he's slightly wounded. We don't have any medical supplies, but if we stick him in a bed all day long, he might recover. If he's just sick, a bed will certainly help him recover, but I don't know about if he's wounded. So where should we put the bed? We'll put the bed, I think, along here. So it's quite close to the workbench and the kitchen, which is going to be upstairs. Where's Marco? Marco, you can get rid of that. Bruno, you're still digging. And unfortunately can't get into that without using the lockpick. I don't want to use it just yet. Right, so what we'll do is we'll send Marco to bed. Bruno to bed. Marin, now can you make the metal workbench, which allows us to make a crowbar? Yes, you can. Right. So here it tells you how long it will take to make that within the day and how much of your supplies it will consume. And this is really part of the challenge. It's making sure you've got enough supplies to actually make what you desperately need for the next day in the game. So we'll make that. We'll keep it along here. We'll make this our sort of working area. So we'll place that there. Now Bruno, he is recovering, is what it says there. So he may recover from his wound without the need for a bandage, but I'm not 100% on that. We shall see. Okay, so Marin has completed the metal workbench. Let's make sure we've got him selected. Now here, excellent, we can produce both a crowbar and a shovel, which will get through those piles of rubbish more quickly. We could produce a weapon, but we need weapon parts. We don't have any of those. So before we can actually create a knife, we're going to need to find some of those parts, and we'll find that out in the map. Anyway, let's make ourselves a crowbar. Now the day here is actually in two parts. It runs until 8 PM, which is night time, and then they go out on the scavenge, and 5 AM they comes back and it starts a new day, and you need to keep abreast of those times. Right, so what Marin can do is he will build another bed, I think. Now, because I've started in the summer, we don't need a stove just yet, so we can leave that out. A radio is very handy, as we'll come to see, as are these consumables, but our next most pressing requirement will be to make food, so I think we need to get that done. So we'll send him up. That'll take an hour. The bed will take an hour. Actually, no, another bed is important on this first night, actually. So we'll make another bed and we'll place it alongside that one. There we go. Meanwhile, Marco can break open this wardrobe. And see what's in there. Bandages, now that is excellent. Oh, and another lockpick. And books. Okay, now they're good. Okay, the water is useful for making food and alcohol. Food, obviously, you need to eat. Alcohol is something you can sell, so that's useful for trading with various characters in the game. And books are handy because you need something to occupy you during the day or those idle times when you're not doing anything else. So it's a morale thing. If you've got enough books, it boosts. If you've got more books, it gives you a greater boost to morale. So there's less hope of them. There's less chance. Don't hope. There's less chance of them falling into a depression, which could have them leaving the house and the game, or actually, characters have been known to commit suicide in this game. It's just got too much for them, and that's the beauty of this game. Is it does give you, and you can tell it from the music and the design, the look of the game, it does give you that sense. It does give you, in a very small way, that sense of what it might be like to try to survive in a war zone. I mean, it is nothing like doing it for real, obviously, but it does give you some kind of context that you might be able to place it in yourself. Okay, so Marco is going to open that as well. Now, if we look at our things, we can see what we've collected. Now, this is what that mod does that I had earlier. The crowbar would normally degrade over time, but I've got that mod now, which means it doesn't. Now, it's a cheat in a sense because it means I don't have to keep replacing it, so I can use these precious supplies and resources for other things which are more useful. But it's for me, it's a minor cheat. I'm going to be okay. And actually, while we're on this page, some thoughts. The shelter offers a bit of a reprieve from the horrors of war. They only have one chair and just one bed. Now, the thing here is that one person every night is going to go out scavenging. So you don't actually need a bed for everyone. There will sometimes be extreme situations where you need that, particularly if one or two of them fall ill or become wounded. But generally you need sort of -1 number of beds for the number of people you've actually got in the refuge. Coffee and cigarettes, again, they're a morale boost. We don't have any of those supplies at the moment, and we have gaping holes in the walls of this shelter that we've got, through which bandits can encroach and attack us. So we're going to have to fairly quickly seal up those breaches. And what have we sent Marco? Have we sent Marco over here to do that? I think we should. Okay, we've got another bed, so that's Marin's done that. Now what can he do here on his workbench? I want him to upgrade the basic workbench as soon as he can, because that gives us barricades to protect. Oh, we can. Excellent. Now that uses a lot of resources, Hopefully Marco, who I'll send out scavenging. Result, more bandages, and this is your meat. So that you can either eat raw. Actually, you can eat vegetables raw, but together they make more nutritious food and more books. That is excellent. That's a good catch. Again, I think these supplies are randomised in the game, so you're never quite sure from one game to the next what you're going to end up with. You could do with opening that. Oh, I told Marion to do that. Right, okay, so this is night time. Now, one of the things about the game is that although you are at risk from bandits, they never turn up on the first night. So what you can do is you can send all the guys you've got, the survivors you've got, who aren't going to scavenge the map, they can sleep and gain some rest and recover from any wounds or sickness. And you want one guy out scavenging. Now here you can see how much they can carry in their backpacks. And Marco, which is why I've chosen him for my survivors, has the biggest backpack of all of them, apart from another character who, although he is quite good at combat, I try to avoid combat where I can. The one with the biggest backpack is actually quite slow. He's not desperately slow that he's always going to get caught, but Marco is a little bit faster on his feet, so he can get around quicker and has less chance of being caught by any rebels or soldiers that he might encounter. Okay, so what we're going to do, I want to go to somewhere which has both these locations are fairly safe. The abandoned cottage, food, materials, weapons. This has huge amounts of stuff, particularly materials which we need at the moment, so we will go there, and we need to prepare. We'll take the crowbar. There's no sign of danger there, so we don't need the lockpick to open doors quietly. We have no weapons, so we can't protect ourselves on that. And that's it. So he's got 15 slots to carry stuff in, minus the one he has to carry to take there, which is his crowbar. So let's send him out scavenging. So here we are. This is our first new location on the map, and we're going to hunt for supplies in here. Again, one little trick here within the game is that if you pick all this stuff up, as you can see, it fills these slots up. Some slots you can take more than one item. Some slots, like the crowbar for example, only take one item in that slot. So it is very easily filled up, actually, as you will see. Is what we can do here is, if we can't carry everything back at once, we can pick it all up and then drop it in a big pile somewhere close to the exit from the location, which is what I'm going to do here. So while I go searching the other locations in this building, I can pick all that stuff up and bring it back here to one big pile. Now, I know there's no soldiers here. Now these red symbols, that's the sound of movement. We don't know what it is, but we know we can hear something moving. Now I happen to know, because I played the game, that that is in fact not people, but rats. So they're not a threat to us. Okay, so what have we got here? Actually, let's go to our furthest locations first. And just pick up what we've got there. More bandages and some pills. That's very handy. Got anything up here? So what we'll do, I'll fill up the backpack here from what I can find in these more distant piles. And take that all back then to the big pile outside the building. Now this door is locked. I can look through it, see what's in there, and I can force it open with my crowbar. Now, if there were occupants in here that I wanted to avoid, like soldiers, I would instead use the lockpick, which would open it quietly. Now this symbol here is new. That's something to look at. It might give you clues as to something else, or a location of extra supplies within the building. Yeah, zone of anti-terrorist operation. Persons remaining in the city treated as terrorist supporters For your own safety, leave immediately, and the army will guarantee a safe passage. Though not many believed them after the atrocities they had committed. Again, it's all building into the story, the feeling, the sense. This is not a nice place to be. Okay, now I can't carry all these things, so I'm going to have to leave some stuff behind. Right, coffee. We need that for morale. That's cigarettes, different types of cigarettes, and weapon parts, electrical parts. And, okay, I can't take anything else back, so what I'll do is I'll rush back down here. Sometimes he forgets how we got places. Again, the clock here is 11:30 PM. We left at 8. We have to leave by 5 to get back safely to home. If we leave after 5, we will have to negotiate off camera, as it were. We don't see it. It's not part of the game you play. The character will attempt to navigate through daylight, which is obviously more risky. They could get caught by armed personnel, so it's a risk they don't make it back at all. You lose the supplies and a comrade. So we're just going through this building. It's now midnight. We've got a couple more hours safely. I'm loving all this stuff here, but as you can see, I can't take too much back at once. Right, there's a pile outside and there's a basement, but I'll come back to those later. Let's get as much of this. It's all useful stuff now. This sugar is useful for alcohol. Teddy bears, they're useful little trade items. I don't think they do anything for morale of your own survivors. So, right, I'm just one last deposit back at our main stack, and then we'll set off back home. The herbs, that sort of flowery thing you saw, this thing here, is useful for making cigarettes and some herbal medications. We can't do that yet. We need enhancements to our workbenches. Okay, this is good. We're getting some food and lots of construction materials. So what shall we take back? Okay, we'll take back just the 4th food. Okay, we'll take some coffee. So it's something good for morale. We'll take. Actually, can we take more water back? Is that all the water we've got? No, there is more there. Oh, I thought there was. Can't see for looking. Okay, so take those back. We won't take that much sugar because we're not going to be using it or need to trade it immediately. We need wood. Now the thing with the quality of life mod was that it gave you huge amounts. You could sort of carry 20 of everything back in each slot. Which is very handy for making sure you can create everything you need to in your shelter. But for me, it just sort of made it a little bit too easy to get through the game, and you didn't have to sort of schedule what you built, and you weren't stressing all the time over what I need to build next. Okay, so I think that will do. We've only got 2 weapon parts there. We need 3 for our knife. The electrical parts I don't think we need just yet. We'll have the sugar. I'm not sure. The trader might arrive tomorrow, so we might need that for some trading purposes. Okay, I think that will do. It's not a great deal, as you can see, at all. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to send him back to the exit, and then he will switch into the next day. Now at that point the game saves, and that is the only point at which the game will save. So if he doesn't make it back from here, if he dies, if he meets somebody and gets killed, that's it. if you move on to the next day, you've lost him. You can't go back to previous. There's no there's no sort of rotation of saves. There's no list of saves. It's just one file. So it really can be quite a challenge to achieve and survive. So what I'm going to do, I think we've run this first episode for long enough. I think now for an introduction, I will send him back to the house and we'll wrap this up. And because he left before 5 o'clock, he comes back safely. There are no raiders, I hope, or bandits on the first night. Day 2, as you can see, it's not freezing, which is good, so the temperature should be okay. So there we are. Night was calm and he's found all those supplies. So everyone's getting tired. Bruno has recovered, so he didn't need the bandages, which is excellent. Now they're ready to go on the day, so they can Marion can carry on working on that upgrade. He's still in bed, is Bruno. Obviously still recovering from his wounds. They are hungry, but that's not a desperate situation yet, so I don't feed them every day. I let them stay hungry for a while. Actually, we need to... no, let's send Marco to bed, actually. Marco, go back to bed. Thank you. Right, so Marin has completed the upgrade to the workshop. And you can see here he can produce extra things now. There's a guitar, which is useful for morale, but you need it to find a broken guitar before you can build that. The armchair, I think that's new, can't remember. But the most important thing is this, the barricade. That's going to use practically all of our wood, and just a few of our components, whatever they're called. But we need to get 3 of these up as soon as we can to protect ourselves against the rampaging bandits. So what's Marco doing? Where is Marco? I said I was going to end the game here, didn't I? That is the trouble with this game. It's one more turn and you play it and you're immediately into the next day and you think, right, I'll just carry on playing this, and you realise, hang on, I've been playing this for 3 hours now. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I need to get to work tomorrow. I have to go to bed. I've been obsessed with this game since I bought it just after Christmas, and as you can see, it's easy to play, but as I hope you will come to realise as we play through, there are challenges. It's not simple. Easy to play, but not simple, and those are the best games. Anyway, from me, Ajaxpost, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have and you want to see more, leave a like. That will encourage me. So if you will, please, that'd be great if you would. Any thoughts or comments on the game, then please just leave them in the comments section below. And of course, if you've not done so already, why not subscribe? And you'll see more of this Let's Play and my other series as we move forward. Roughly weekly schedule for each of the games. So until next time, from me, Ajaxpost, and this war of mine, bye bye for now.